Hello, good afternoon to all of you who listen us from Europe. Good morning if you do it from the other side of the Atlantic. I am Philip Lardy, CEO of Open Expo and collaborator in Beyond Innovation. Today, receive Keith HOLLMAN, is a MySQL principal solution architect at Oracle. How are you, Keith?
Hi, Philippe. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Yep, this is Keith. It's hot because we're presenting out of Spain today. But yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. No, not just yet. And yes, today we're going to be talking about MySQL.
Oh, good night.
Well, maybe we'll be talking about MySQL, the latest.
Yeah, to know. Yeah. So today with you, with Keith, we will talk about MySQL 8.0, the latest and greatest version yet. True or not?
Oh,
yes, this is true, Keith.
Of course it is.
Okay, so just remember, if you want to ask questions to Keith, you can do it directly through social networks, Telegram, or YouTube chat during all the live. And we will ask it to Keith at the end of this webinar. So thank you very much to be here today with us. And Keith, show must go on.
Thank you very much, Philippe. And thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, as we said, we're going to be talking about MySQL 8, the latest and greatest. And obviously, there's lots of things in MySQL 8. And it's not just 8.0, okay? 8.0.11 was the GA version. But we've gone on since then. That was over 2 years now. And we're on 8.0.20, for those of you who don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, I'm Keith HOLLMAN. I work for Oracle, and therefore I have to put a safe harbor statement into my presentations because we may talk about future functionality and things like that we, just can't obviously commit to for dates and everything, or you can't put that in a contract. So basically, this is my license to lie to all of you. Not that I'm going to, but I could if I wanted to. Okay, just a quick overview for those of you who don't know maybe MySQL too well. Maybe it's the first time you're hearing about MySQL, or you just want to know more. Where do people rank MySQL? Well, there's one of the web pages that has rankings of databases. There's over 300 databases on this page, and there you can see the top 5 there. MySQL is the second. Okay, the second, obviously the most popular open source database, but there's some other databases there that may sound familiar. And obviously you can see the ratio there, the rankings there of how well we're doing. So a lot of the times, depending on where you are in the world, you may hear, "Oh, MySQL, that's a small database, that's a toy database, that's something that people don't really want to take seriously." Well, it's not just that. It's not just that. A little bit more. From a developer perspective, okay, from Stack Overflow, this was a survey they sent out last year, and I think the survey was around 80 to 100,000 developers, and the number one database that all the developers used was MySQL. As you can see, there are other databases there. And so it's again, it's not just a Linux database as well. It's on Windows as well. We've got very strong Windows solutions. They're not just the server, of course, but there are things that fit in well with Windows and with the whole Microsoft platform. So what are we going to be looking at? Again, we'll be looking at MySQL 8, but I've got about 40 minutes left before you start hitting me with all these questions. So we're going to have a quick look at what's, apologies, we're going to look at what's 8.0. Then I'm going to go over other things a bit more quickly, like the Enterprise Edition, what's in that, just so you know, okay, just so you understand what does the difference between community and enterprise is, okay? And I'm sure you're going to have loads of questions around, the difference there. Then, of course, high availability. What options are available? There's going to be lots of good stuff there. Then there's the document store. Okay, that's new in 8. And how we can use MySQL as a NoSQL. And then there's last bit there is going to be microservices and containers. What can you do with MySQL if you're looking at DevOps, looking at a more getting things out there quick kind of thing. So first up is the innovation around MySQL. As you can see, we're doing lots of new things within MySQL 8. And a fair few years ago, when Oracle acquired Sun, 2009. The European Union said you're going to have to make sure you don't destroy MySQL for the next 5 years. 10 years after the acquisition there, we're bringing out all of these things in MySQL 8. So don't think that questions arises anymore, does it? But also, we've moved from 5.7 to 8.0. Okay, why? Because there was version 6 and 7 of MySQL cluster, so we did this jump from 5.7 to 8.0. Obviously, there are lots of new things in 8.0, but one of the big things there was data dictionary. On the way, however, we brought in what the HA cluster, and that is, InnoDB cluster, the replica sets, group replications, the plugin built in, the MySQL router and MySQL shell, which ties it all together. And then we'll be looking more into detail of the new things that are GA within MySQL 8. So what is new? Well, we've got things for everybody here, for DBAs and developers. For a DBA, the data dictionary has changed now. It's no longer MyISAM. It's InnoDB. That means we're crash safe. That means we're safe from the operating system. So you can't copy out your mysql.users table and take that file, your MyISAM file, into another environment, and all of a sudden you've hacked all the users in your MySQL instance. You can't do that anymore, okay? You're going to have a bit more permissions than that. What else have we got for DBAs? Persistent runtime configurations. Well, that's done with set persist. So we don't not stopping and starting the instance all this time. There's new things like, the auto increment counter now. It will persist over server restarts. So it was a bug that appeared in the past. Lots of indexing of performance schema tables, which means, making that performance much better. So we can activate the performance schema if we were scared of activating it before, and, we'd be much more efficient there. And there are things like roles, collection of privileges around security reasons within, for a DBA perspective. And those roles things, that's that's been requested for such a long time there. From a developer's perspective, we've got common table expressions. Okay, so we're writing CTEs with queries there. We've got Windows functions. Okay, that doesn't mean it works on Windows. That's just a window, or like a window of data, a range of data there. So over a ranking as well. See more of that in a minute. Locking. We want to avoid or not cause locks when we know we don't really care about them, the rows that are being locked. So there's specific locking mechanisms that are new there with 8 as well. And again, like we said, there's more JSON, GIS, a spatial, or a document store functionality there, all combined, all thrown in, all included. And can you see enterprise on here? No, we're still talking community here. So this is all open source. So one of the biggest changes within MySQL 8 is the default character set now is UTF-8 MB4. Okay. Started in 5.7, but now it's default in 8.0. So if you do start up with a fresh install of 8.0, be aware that's one of the changes there. Doesn't mean you can't still use Latin 1 if you want to. It's just that's the new default there. And talking of defaults, if I may, there are lots of changed defaults around default values for different parameters. Okay, because what we're trying to do there is to give you something that's as most efficient, faster performing out of the box as possible. Obviously, you can change them, but look at those as well. So don't be surprised if you see new defaults, higher or lower values according to whatever, in that sense there. And also, what else is there? It's like a per country collation rules as well, accent sensitive, case sensitive, and support for latest Unicode. What else? Like I said, the data dictionary, it's InnoDB even. So we've moved from MyISAM to InnoDB. And atomic crash safe DDL there. Okay, so crash, create the user tables there. We're safer there. Oh yeah, and let me just go back to the data dictionary there. What does that mean? Also that the FRM files aren't there anymore. Okay, so if you're looking for them and you say, oh, they've gone, that's because we moved to the InnoDB. We've been trying to be more, operating system agnostic, because we're thinking cloud. We don't want to have things, playing around or being difficult here, difficult there. And again, it's just a security thing there as well. What else? Something new. Well, for example, this came from Tencent Games as a contribution from them. Okay, and it only changes metadata and a copying of data, smaller, finer data size. That means an instant add column. Okay, so we alter table, add column C, algorithm equals instant, which is in place of copy. That's the other two options. And so that's enabled by default. So we're doing better things faster here. Like we said, roles, access controls around, permissions and privileges. Oh, there, example there, set default role. We set a default role for the users, whatever, but then we can, change that role if you want to, if we've got permissions to do so. Now, of course, we wouldn't have a new version without having an older version. And now you're going to say, okay, well, what about when I upgrade? What things do I have to take into mind? Apart from all of the links at the end of this presentation, and you can have a lovely leisurely look at those and read up on all of those if you want. But there is an upgrade checker for you. Okay, so it'll look at your instance so you don't have to, and we'll go away and and see things and go, oh, right, you need to change this on that table. What about that column? What about this one here? And that's all included in MySQL Shell. Okay, MySQL Shell, we'll be talking more about that in a second. It's a command line utility. So instead of MySQL, it's MySQL SH. All right, and all we'd have to do is do util.check for server upgrade. And that will be, go away, look at your 5.7 and say, right, okay, or even your 8.0.11, 8.0.12, and they'll look at that and say, right, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, or you don't need to do anything. Performance. We're always worried about performance, of course, but again, I'm one of these who I leave the when I do presentations and stuff, I leave the marketing material in there, but obviously all I do have to remind you is obviously all performance and all these improvements and stuff, you need to test them yourself. That means that I can give you lots of graphs, lots of sysbench, lots of benchmarks, whatever, telling you, yeah, we're wonderful, greater, we wash whiter and quicker in less time. But do it yourself. You tell us. And if there isn't, we'll have a look at it, okay? Again, the different utilities like sysbench and MySQL Slap to have a look at, how your environment's improving or not, and, let us know. But as I said, there are lots of things there where we are very aware and concerned about performance. Talking performance, let's skip locked here, okay? So, maybe we've got a system where we start transactions up and, we don't really care about the rows that are locked, because if they are being locked, that means we don't want to get them included in this query that we're doing right now. So therefore, skip locked. Don't sit there and wait. What did you say? No waiting? Well, that one too, if there is an error, give me that right away, statement aborted because locks could not be acquired. Fair enough. Don't just sit there for about 50 seconds. That's another update. Again, request from developers. You want to see what locks we've got? We'll have a look at the performance schema data locks and have a look at what type of lock mode we've got on the table. Is it per row? Is it an exclusive? Have a look there. Resource groups. Now, if you've got long-running queries, you don't want different analytical queries taking up the CPU or resources from your online users, maybe. We can just create a resource group and assign that to different users or whatever for different threads. So then, and have a look at that resource group. So that's whilst we're running. Okay, that's what we can specify, this resource group for. And again, that allows us to maybe throttle those users. Maybe the IT director's come in, thinks that he's using the test environment for whatever reason, but he'd really gone into production. So we can throttle him there. The query. Did I say him? No. Parallel replication. Now, this has come from another customer, Booking.com. And again, it's a contribution and put it into MySQL there by saying, I want to run all my parallel replication on my slaves, and I want that to be much more efficient. And, that's an example there. Now, we've been looking at things in the past around GIS and spatial systems, okay, and we've been getting lots of queries and lots of requests to improve things there. So we've done it. And 8.0, what we've done is changed the whole SRS available and everything. So we've got now the world can be flat or ellipsoid. Geographic coordinate system wraps around, axis of units, and geographic axis and orthogonal and so on and so forth. So there's in fact lots of different ways of making the most out of the GIS solutions here. The quotes there is matching or exceeding Postgres if you're using Postgres GIS features there. For example, create table, geometry using the different SRID, and then you've got the latitude and longitude there, via the specific functions, and you've got geohash and geojson. Now, what about analytical type use case here? As we said from the beginning, common table expressions, the with clause, okay, so I don't have to create any, temporary views or temporary tables here, recursively or non-recursive, not for hierarchical usage. And then there's the window functions, like we said, the ranking, the analytical perspective. They're making things a whole lot easier, so we don't have to mess up all these queries. The common table expressions is a very simple example, okay, with, I'm going to do my T1 as, select star from table A where A equals B, and then T2 as that, and then do my select, okay? And as you can see in the example on the right there, I've got a 1 to 10 sequence. So I'm really making up my queries a whole lot easier, and it's, it's just in one single query here. The window functions, okay, so create a table, insert some data in there and select from that. But I'm going to want to do some, sums and aggregates, and maybe, I want to have sum per aggregate here. Well, that's the over and the over partition function there. And you can see in the example, we've got employee and the date and the sale, but obviously the sum of the sale per employee exactly is like 900 for Odin and 1200 for Thor. But according to different data, and that, you can see how things are progressing there. So again, that's for the over partition by there. And that's straight out of the box, just helping us a lot, make things a whole lot easier there. There's another example for you. And again, I expect you'll be getting a copy of the slides, or looking at this online, afterwards. You have a look at the examples. There's lots of slides here, lots of information, and go away and look at it and investigate this way you see fit. Okay, because I'm knocking on the time here. It's like 5:17 local time, and I've got lots more things to talk about. So with your permission, I'm going to shoot over these. Okay, you can see the width, the select there, and the over partition by. JSON functions available. Obviously, this is very key for the document store part. Okay, JSON pretty, storage size, storage free, and all of the other JSONs. And obviously, these are JSON functions that are working on our collections, the table underneath. And obviously, those collections are going to be wanting to work efficiently, and that means with indexes. And we're doing that here. Okay, so don't worry if you're concerned about performance there. As I said, the generated columns is what we use in order to get our indexes working, and you can store them or keep them virtual. As you can see, they're generated always as JSON unquote, JSON extract, blah, 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 stored, not null. We could have virtual there, so we could store it or not. So we're inserting data into our JSON columns and selecting it from, that doesn't look much like a MySQL table, they say. Well, let's change it then. JSON pretty. Give me some pretty JSON output. Well, there you go. Looks a bit more like a document store, doesn't it? That's a coincidence. What about if I want it in plain old MySQL format? Oh yeah, it's a JSON data type. We're storing that binary, that document, as JSON data type there. But what we're doing is converting it into good old MySQL. More new things in MySQL 8. Invisible indexes. Do I want them? Don't I want them? I don't know. Well, let's create an index, but keep it hidden. So it's not being used by the optimizer until I make it visible. Right. So, use cases, soft delete, stage rollout, test, at least that way, if we create an index, we don't have to recreate it again, block the table, so on and so forth, and, cause all that hassle in production. Keep it there or not. Histograms, that's good for the optimizer, makes us more efficient plans. We get the skew of the data, we know how that skew is. Okay, well, with 1024 buckets, and there's an example there, making our queries and our statistics much more exact. Now, this is what I mentioned at the beginning. 8.0.11 was the first GA release. Okay, that came out April 2018. What is it? It's May 2020. And we've brought out a few versions since then. But not only have they had bug fixes in them, they've got new features as well. And you can have a quick look. And as I say, have a look at these ones in more detail if you want to. But we're going to have a quick look at what's come out on each different release. So 8.0.11, lock instance for backup, for example, restart statement, okay, thinking cloud again. 8.0.12, auto table instant copier in place there. InnoDB cluster came up with an exit state action, so therefore, the abort server if we got a split brain there. Query write plugin supports also insert, update, and delete. 8.0.13, 8.0.14, we've got functional indexes, all these new features. These are new features, remember that. Look at that, cluster, switch to multi-primary, switch to single primary mode, okay? That's in shell. That's, converting our 3-node instance back and forward again. A MySQL router, in-place character sets, and things like that. What else have we got? Check constraints. Now, that's not a long waited for functionality. Check constraints in our tables. 8.0.17, the clone plugin. We can clone your instance very simply now, just by saying, clone to, and give it the IP address, give it username and password. And we're cloning our instance into a development environment, a slave environment, encrypted binary logs. Wow, look at that. 8018, explain, analyze. Okay, so not only just get the explain for it, analyze the table as well. InnoDB TDE for HashiCorp plugin. Okay, for HashiCorp Vault. 8019 InnoDB replica set. Okay, so I've got a master slave. That's the simple setup I want, but I want to have a kind of, I want router to be able to read which is a master, and when it changes over to reroute all the write queries into the right master there. So that's all included 8019. 8020, bin log compression, show routine. You've got new hints for indexes there, and the hash join, for the more extended use there. So, all these are new features. I'm not including the bug fixes. So what's next? Well, 8021 will be the next one, won't it? So that was a very, very brief MySQL 8 there. And I say there are a lot more features in there and stuff, but I've gone over the major ones you can have a look at. But I just want to have a quick show of what is the Enterprise Edition as well. So all of that is community, right? Now, what do I get if I pay for MySQL? Well, first up, I wanted to make sure the things is clear. Community and Enterprise, this MySQL server software, both of them. All right. Standard functionality it's all there. Partition, replication, high availability. The storage engines are all there. Utilities, command lines, GUIs. SQL and NoSQL, you'll see in a minute. The document store is also community. Okay. Obviously, the official documentation is the same and stuff. The connectors, the drivers, the APIs, it's all the same there as well. Okay. Obviously, you've got enterprise versions of those. Okay. For different things like Enterprise Monitor and stuff, Enterprise Workbench, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's all there for you, whatever you choose. They're compatible in between each other. Okay, so no one's ever going to tell you, no one from MySQL is going to tell you to get rid of your community and you have to put Enterprise on, or vice versa is up to you. But the server software itself and the connectors are fully, you get your Enterprise Edition, and then that's it. That's cool. There's no one's forcing you to do anything there. What's the difference between them? Okay, well, I get my community binaries from mysql.com downloads. Okay, that's always going to be open source. If I want the enterprise binaries, where do I go? eDelivery, Oracle.com. Okay, you get the product pack, MySQL database. What's the things around, what's this editions lark? What do I do? How do I understand enterprise? We've got standard edition, enterprise edition, or carrier grade edition. We'll just have a look at that in a second. If you're an embedded customer, you're using MySQL in your solution, and then you're selling that solution on or whatever. There's a classic version, an old one, as well as standard enterprise and carrier grade. What about installing MySQL? Well, you got your RPMs, MSIs, your .debs, whatever packages for your operating system, as well as your compressed tarbles and zips, depending on what you want to do. There's also a MySQL minimal install binary downloaded for an enterprise version that's 50 meg. That's full MySQL server, but that's all it is. You don't want anything else. You don't want anything fancy. You just want the minimal. Well, that's cool. 50 meg download software. And of course, it's not on here, but you say it's open source. You say it's community. You say I can compile this myself. If you want us to support that, let us know. Obviously, we're not going to support things that you've put in there, but if you've taken things out, for example, from the community edition, you just want support because you need support, that's okay. No worries there. This is a quick overview so you can see the difference between standard, enterprise, and carrier grade edition there. So standard is basically MySQL community with support. All right, I've got the replication there, the connectors, the database server, and things like that. Enterprise is almost everything. Okay, if you say, oh, well, I want to have my HA, I want to have my partitioning, then all of that supported and updated and everything with the enterprise edition. And as you can see there, we're talking, enterprise security, scalability, high availability and stuff. And then you've got the carrier grade, which is NDB, which is MySQL cluster, okay? And the NDB cluster, which is, obviously for specific architectures and stuff. So why would you want the enterprise edition? Well, I can sum this up much, quicker than all of this. Obviously, this is very marketing, but so you can sleep at night. You've got, MySQL behind you, second line of defense, third line of defense, or whatever. Support is there 24/7. You got, all your customers are happy because they know you're on it and you've got solutions. You'll always have a solution there. TCO is what it is. It's very low, obviously, and you got the performance, of agility, the risks are minimized, and you just, you're happy. Your customers are happy. We're happy. Now, if you don't understand anything from the Enterprise Edition today, then please take this away, okay? There's three big areas, which is on the left-hand side, you'll see the advanced features, which means I've got the MySQL Enterprise binary, I've installed it, and I'm going to use all of these plugins, all of these features, all right? That's okay. You say, okay, well, I don't want to install the binary, the enterprise binary. I want to keep my community binary. What can I do with that? Well, all of the management tools, all the bit in the middle there, you can see are perfectly valid with that community. So I'm monitoring with Enterprise Monitor, Enterprise Backups, doing my backups and everything, writing my queries, administrating my users or security, migrating data from other MySQLs or other databases into MySQL. That's with the Workbench, the Enterprise Edition. So all of those tools work with the community as well, community and enterprise, of course. And then you've got support, and you've got from obviously the technical support 24/7, blah, blah, blah. But you've got also have something that we call consultative support, which means there's no problem, there's no issue. You just maybe want to say, well, I'm concerned about my performance. Can you help me, with my MyCNF or my my.ini? I want to make sure that I'm, not hitting too many barriers right away. Or I'm thinking of migrating from, 5.5 to 8.0. What should I, keep in mind and stuff? The support team will help you out there as well. And obviously the Oracle certifications if you have other Oracle products. There is a lot of things around security, okay? We are very concerned about security. Obviously, MySQL is part of Oracle, therefore Oracle can't allow itself not to be concerned about security. We've got enterprise authentication with, LDAPs, Active Directory, pluggable authentication modules, making things easier from a multi-factoring, authentication there. Enterprise masking of data or de-identification, taking production data into pre-prod or making sure that no DBA sees, the sensitive data there. Workbench, you've got the community version and the enterprise version that allows us to get hold of the models, data, audit the data, users, and control them and that. Enterprise Monitor, it's there. It's going to help us control, alerts and everything, see who's doing what, changing schemas, passwords, how the backup's doing, so on. We've got the encryption with TDE, or what we call MySQL keyring, in conjunction with the key vault there. Encrypting the data within the tables with enterprise encryption, keeping your digital certificates or whatever, digital signatures in the tables if you want to. Got the cluster there, we're keeping things safe with the cluster with our enterprise backup being encrypted. You've got auditing, which we combine as well. We audit, different parts of MySQL, just the logins or the queries or, parts of the table, whatever. Minimizing attacks with thread pool, performance-wise in that sense. And built-in things like access controls and network encryption, strong authentication. And also there's something called enterprise firewall, which is really like, it's SQL injection blocking, making sure we've got our queries that have been executed are the ones that we know and none other than those ones. Now that was, again, very fast overview there of the security options available. You've got them here in more detail. I'll just whiz over there. Masking de-identification. The monitor there. This is very simple to get up playing. If you want to have a look at this or play with this, let me know or let your local MySQL contact know. It's very simple to get up and it's Tomcat MySQL, stick it in a virtual machine and you're monitoring. The key thing here is query analyzer, get explain plans, activity, historical there. If you're an Oracle customer and you've got the Enterprise Manager, then there's a plugin included with the MySQL Enterprise Edition as well. It's all included, no extra cost or packs or tuning, whatever. The backup. Now, I bet you're all doing backups. I bet you're all using MySQL dump. Probably some of you may be using MySQL pump. Enterprise backup's much faster and integrates with lots of different clouds. You've got, say incremental full, point-in-time recovery, partial recovery, compression, encryption, different layers, backup to tapes or whatever, MMS, backup from Windows to Linux, whatever you want, okay? Again, support 24/7, 365, ask the question you want. Consultative, we went into that. And basically, all of this is you're working with the people who make MySQL, both support, both the engineering team, developers, and behind the scenes. It's all MySQL. It's the quick way in, the way into MySQL. And certifications with other Oracle products here. Now, that was Enterprise Edition in 5-10 minutes, wasn't it? Let's have a look at some other things around. I've got 15 minutes. God, dear, concerned about time, aren't you? Well, I've got 3 more things to talk about. It's not light. HA, what do you want to do? Okay. Now, you've got lots of options, all the options you want. Okay. Now, the first one out of the box is replication. Okay, MySQL replication on your right-hand side. It's core part of MySQL. It's used by almost everyone for different reasons. We're replicating data for whatever reason. HA, DR, sharding, read sharding, write sharding if you want to do that one. You can use any storage engine. It's asynchronous. We're taking the logs from your master to your slave. We can have a semi-sync option there as well, configure that so we know how many slaves have got all the data and everything. We're scaling out with the reads there. And then, like I said, in 8.0.19 in we've got replica set, okay, with integration with shell and router. So, it makes things a little bit easier there when we want to set, a simple setup. And we want to make sure that the application is going to go to the right master. That was replication in a nutshell. We'll look more into that in a second. InnoDB cluster. Now, as its name may hint at, this is for InnoDB environments, and obviously, the large majority, I'd say 99% of your systems now are probably using InnoDB only tables. It's built in. It's built in via the group replication plugin. Okay, which you could use if you wanted, on your own outside the box, or just as a plugin itself. But shell and router is so easy to use, it just makes much more sense to use InnoDB cluster. And it was in 5.7, we're now in 8.0, of course. Write consistency, read scalability is so much easier to read, in this sense, across the cluster. Because it's MySQL 8 as well, we've got the native CRUD API in MySQL 8. And basically, behind the scenes, the group replication is based around the synchronous replication there. It's our version of Paxos. Okay, so in that sense, the InnoDB cluster there, and again, I'll give you a hint at the different ways of doing the HA in a second and what the applications have. And then NDB cluster, we're talking about tables that are using the NDB storage engine. Now, that's a different architecture. That's a different solution. It's a memory database, in-memory data, okay, network database. We're network dependent here. So we've got automatic sharding of data, SQL access via MySQL if you want, with cross-shard join support across the different data nodes. We've got native access to the via different APIs. So we're talking, we're skipping the MySQL D here if you want to, writing straight into the tables here. Got read-write consistency, read-write scalability with a two-phase comment behind the scenes there. And of course, it's ACID and got transactions. So, it's an in-memory cluster. So, here we go again. I've just remembered, of course, yes, my name is Keith HOLLMAN, I'm English, and I'm speaking very fast because time is of an essence. Apologies to all of you who are having to, wait for the recording so you can slow me down. So let me go over this one, just the different perspective. If I've got a 100 gig master right now, and I want to use replication, well, my slave is going to have 100 gig. Okay, but then it doesn't have to have 100 gig if I don't want to. I could replicate just one table, one schema, or a set, a subset of all that data. So in a two-node scenario, master slave replication scenario, I'd have 200 gig or less. Okay, I understand that. What about the InnoDB cluster? Well, like I said, I've got 100 gig in one master. If I go towards my InnoDB cluster, I'll have 3 nodes in my cluster at minimum. So therefore, I'll have 300 gig. Okay, I can understand that. Got 3 nodes, 300 gig. Yeah. Maybe you want to create a disaster recovery environment out of my InnoDB cluster, those 3 nodes, and have a single node replicated there. You can do that as well. So you don't have to have that could be a subset for maybe the marketing people or billing or you name it. But then if I've got 100 gig in my single instance, I go to NDB cluster. How much data I'm going to have? Well, first of all, that's going to be 100 gig in memory, of course. Okay, we can have on disk data tables if you want to, but we kind of recommend memory there. But that's going to be, instead of 100 gig, it's going to be 200 and a bit gig. Okay, but we didn't say anything about how many nodes you've got. Well, it doesn't matter, because however you configured your NDB cluster, your architecture and everything, you can have in a 7.6 with 48 data nodes, and 8.0 you've got up to 144 data nodes if you want, as well as 200 MySQL nodes and your 2 arbitrators. So we're talking 250 plus components in your single NDB cluster, and we're supporting that 200 a bit gig. Okay, we're not multiplying here 500 times or 600 times, but again, we're talking we're memory dependent, so be careful there. So, yep, replication. different topologies. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Well, you can have a single replication, one master, one slave. That's no problem. But what about chain? I've got my master is replicating to the slave, and that slave at the same time is also a master to another slave. Okay, there's a chain replication. Circular replication. Okay, I've got two masters replicating different data against each other, or same data but maybe with different lags or offsets and everything. Be careful, please. What about a master with multiple slaves? There's no problem there. You can have as many slaves as you want. What about multi-master? Yeah, we can do that. Have two masters replicating data across each other, as well as having different slaves there. Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. Data, like we said, scaling out and whatever. What about multi-circular? Yeah, you can do it. Be careful, please, with that one. Because what goes around comes around, as they say. And multi-source. That means I've got three masters there, and that's replicating down to a single slave. That slave opens up to specific channels to each of its master and replicates and consolidates data down. Okay, and I don't think I mentioned it here. No, just before I move on, it's 100% supported to have the slave at a higher version. Now, it's recommended that slave be the immediate higher version. So say, for example, you're on 5.7. Now you've heard that this English guy is talking to you about 8.0. You want to try it out. Install your MySQL 8, create a slave, and that slave's replicating data from your 5.7. Okay. When you're happy, when you've tested everything in that slave, all you have to do is change your connect string or change your your data source there, and you're now pointing at the slave, and you've just upgraded the whole environment when you know it's safe to do that. Now, like we said, in 8.0.19, it was the replica sets was new, so we're now using we can use MySQL router with a simple master slave situation. The switchover and failover is manual from us when the master goes down. We do have to obviously control that one, but router knows which is the master there. Okay, configured by a shell, and that's that. Oh, when you've got InnoDB clone, like I said, 8.0.16, 8.0.17, sorry, onwards, so we could automatically create another slave off of that one, or restore the data from us and the slave into the old failed master. So what about InnoDB cluster? Well, here it is. Okay, we're using group replication, so we've got consistency, and that's a configurable consistency. Like you saw at the beginning, we've added new levels of configurations options there, so we can control that consistency again, which means blocking across the cluster. Okay, automatic failover, we don't have to do anything from our side. No data loss in case of a failover. Conflict resolution, obviously, depending on who's done the first commit. And we're using clone. So when we create the cluster, you add an instance to the environment and say, okay, I can't see the data there. Do you want me to clone it for you? You just say yes, and it will do it for you. So again, that's automatically provisioned there. And it's very simple to do. And shell and router there, router routes, you've got different strategies within router that helps us point to whatever we want to. So again, this is like, for example, in applications, connects to the router goes to the primary node. Oh, crash happens. So we now have the primary nodes, there's no number 2. Router does that for you. The application just carries on working. Okay, and then we can bring the old master back up as a second node. Okay, we can have the InnoDB cluster multi-primary or single primary, which is the default, the single primary. Okay, consistency levels there is eventual, before and after. Okay, and we've got before failover and before and after as well, as you can see there. Okay, again, these can be set global or at session level, so depending on what we want to do, by default it's eventual, but maybe you want before and primary failover, or you want after, to make sure that everything is written across all the nodes. Again, depending on what you want to do. The clone plugin, it's very useful to add new nodes in, and there's a getting started how to, if you want to. Okay, NDB cluster. Now this is this is a lesson apart, like we said, the architecture there. First, there is an evaluation guide actually on mysql.com that's it's technical and says, do I need MySQL cluster or do I need something else? Is my application suitable or not? And it'll tell you. But obviously there are things here about high availability, 6.9, strong consistency, real-time response times, ACID, and in memory. Okay, and there's a benchmark example there. Please do your own. Another one, it's an indicator of how powerful it can be. Again, this is an independent benchmark, but 4 nodes, we're doing pretty well with the TPSs there. The architecture to time here. So basically, we've got data nodes that are replicating data across. So you don't have to do anything. You're not partitioning. You're not creating anything. We do that for you. So we've got replicas of data. It's data redundancy. So if one of the nodes go down, there's no failover. Just we attack the other copy of the data. By primary key, for example, and that's auto sharding. So those rows go across within our group, and we're making sure that we're always consistent. Writing data, same thing here. From memory, it's all written into memory. That's flushed down via checkpoints down to disk, and obviously got a redo as well. Use cases. Why would you want to use MySQL cluster? Key value, transactional, relational. Depending on what you want to do. But think about. So maybe it doesn't have to be a massive system. It's just pure online, pure in memory. You can have it on a Raspberry Pi if you want to. Make it small. But it needs to be fast. It needs to be there always. How many data nodes do you want? 4, which is a kind of a minimum. 4, 8, 10, you name it. 16, 100. What is your API? What is your program? Is it just a C program? We didn't use them at the cluster. It's very easy. It's NoSQL before NoSQL was born. Oh, talking NoSQL. I'm going to go quickly through these because I want to talk about something else. Some example of customers using MySQL cluster here. Telco, gaming, activity. Document store. 5 minutes to tell you what document store is. Do I have to tell you what document store is? Okay, well, you know what MySQL is. MySQL is relational, but now we've got document as well. So how do we do that? We want to attend to everybody, not just a DBA, not just a business owner, but also developers. So schema-less, making it easy to throw documents into collections. And how does that work? Well, we started off with 5.7 with the JSON data type, but now in 8.0, it's all there and everything. Generated columns with functional indexes, okay? So that's the way it works performance-wise. Got MySQL X plugin for the X protocol and the XDev API, which means all of that allows us to go into a different port, attack the MySQL instance in a different manner, saying, okay, we're going to throw this into a schema, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to create our collection. Underneath, that's really a table. But what we're going to do with our collections is add documents, which at the end of the day are rows. But you've seen that example before. And we've got loads of connectors for obviously supporting XDev API. Now, this is the one, okay? From the left-hand side, that's classic, okay? Applications, connectors, Node.js, Python, Java, Net, PHP, whatever. Going through the standard protocol into my relational table that I already know about. But then I want to throw data into something I don't know if it's going to be relational or not. First name, last name. There's no city here, but there is some age, and there's not the size of his feet and his mum's name, and I don't know. Just throw it in there. JSON, data type, into a collection, and that's in the same table if we want to, or the same schema, but it is the same instance, okay? And we're using this access however we want to. MySQL Shell gives us a DevOps tool in there, and it allows us to go straight into our document store and use it, okay? So again, we can, and in that MySQL Shell, we can switch between SQL, JavaScript, or Python if you want to. Do CRUD, create, read, update, delete. And this is a way how you do it. Connecting using MySQL Shell, create a collection, products add, throw some data in there, products add, throw some more data in there. There we go. Give me that back. Modify it, remove it, and there you have it. And now microservices. God damn, microservices in a minute. How do you do that? All right, okay. Well, we've got MySQL. You've seen it. It's got all of this. MySQL 8, okay. But we've got it available in a container as well. You want to use it in Docker. You want to throw it and create it and do it the only way you want to. Deploy it with Ansible, Chef, Kubernetes, whatever. You want your NoSQL. We've just seen that. Well, how can I do this? Well, microservices, it's very easy to do. It's open source, but we've also got the enterprise solutions as well for dev and DBAs, so it's all there. And like we say, community or enterprise. You want to do InnoDB, you want to do InnoDB cluster, you want to do NDB cluster, you want document store. It's all there. How do you want to do it? You want to containerize it. In what way, shape, or form? You choose. What about deploying it? Again, you choose a Kubernetes, OpenShift, deploy it with Docker or whatever. And then again, like we say, NDB, InnoDB clusters, it's very easy. One thing around virtualization in containers, okay, is like, MySQL's GPL, you can use it in VM machine, virtual machines, in Docker images. Like we say, you've got the MySQL community versions on the Docker Hub, but on the Docker store, you've got the Enterprise edition as well. You can play with everything Enterprise via your Docker. So it's ubiquitous, good fit for all company and teams, used for legacy and modern apps as well, because you want to throw things out there, get it there, and it's enterprise. Now, MySQL database service, there's a cloud service as well coming out. So if you want to do that in Oracle Cloud, feel free. Questions? Philippe, have I gone too fast, too slow?
No, it's perfect. I think it's. I understand you, and I'm French, so it's okay.
Thank goodness for that.
You were okay for me. I think you were okay for the audience too. So thank you very much. It was really clear. We have 2 questions, but just before that, I just want to remember, if you want to ask some questions to Keith, you can do it directly through Telegram, YouTube, chat, or social networks, or directly to a private message. So you can do it. We have 2 questions. The last one you answer it, but I will ask you again. And I want to say that you have an event, the 3rd of June, an event with WePay and MySQL.
Yep.
Virtual conference with JP Morgan, no?
Yep, that's right.
So it's just to let people know that you can find some information about this on the website of Oracle and the website of mysql.com at the same time. So just let you know, there are good speakers from WePay and good speakers from MySQL. I saw that Frédéric, your partner Frédéric Deschamps is there. At the same time, and guys from WePay too. So first question. So first question, should you run databases in containers, and how? You answer it at the end. So if you want to go further on this.
If I may elaborate though a little bit more on that one, it's like you choose your own poison, I suppose. It works, but then what's stateful, stateless? Cows or pets, as they say, in the Kubernetes world or the Docker worlds. It's up to you. A lot of people, it depends on where you're working or who you're working with, what's easy for you. So use what's easier for you. Don't try and reinvent the wheel or try and be, ice breaking in that sense. Maybe your organization's already using Kubernetes, and then, it's something you want to look at. But if you're going to have to, go down that path specifically because some English guy said on a webcast, on a session, I have to use Docker, keep it easy for you. So whatever you want to do, but you can do it. Okay, you can set up your InnoDB cluster or your NDB cluster in Kubernetes if that's what you want to do. So I've got other customers who aren't using that; they're all using scripts, and they're happy with their scripts, and they do it that way. So it really is. It's there for you to use however you want to.
You can do it on your own risk, no?
Exactly. Don't come to me.
Okay, it's perfect. The second question, if no one has got another questions on Telegram, YouTube, or other social networks, it's about IoT and embedded systems. We should use MySQL for IoT or embedded systems?
You can actually, and with the document store, that's possibility, like I said, with the minimal install, or even, and I can go further on that. Colleagues of mine have taken things out of the open source version of MySQL and left it as, if you just want to create tables and insert data, you can have an 8 megabyte install of MySQL Server. So if you just want to insert maybe temperature data or store, speeds, velocities of caudals, or of gauging in liquids or whatever, things like that, then you can do that as well. So it really does depend again on what you want to do. The flexibility around MySQL being installed on Windows, Linux, replicating here, there, and few years ago asking to install MySQL on of hotel doors. Maybe it's a bit too much. Maybe we don't need that right now. Maybe microservices is where that come in. But yes, you can install it in IoT, where on the phone, it's up to you. So go ahead. And let us know what you're doing. It'd be nice to hear what you're doing, how you want to do it.
Okay, just checking if there is another questions. Just a second. Now,
Sure.
for the moment, I think maybe already was okay, or maybe too fast. I don't know. Now, but you can ask question directly to Keith on the screen. You have his email keith.hollman@oracle.com. So you
Yeah.
can ask there directly or through social networks, LinkedIn
Yeah.
or maybe Twitter. You can find him or in the different forums. So thank you very much, Keith, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Philippe. And thank everyone for joining. I really appreciate it.
And thank you very much to everyone who joined us today. And if you like this videos, this webinar, you can like it, you can share it. And we hope to see you in 3 weeks in Open Expo virtual experience. We already had 2,000 people, professional registered for the event and more than 50 speakers conference. So you're all you can all come together for this virtual experience. So thank you very much to everyone, and thank you very much again, Keith, to be here today
Thank
with
you.
us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.